Next discussion, which is on design disruption, technology and sustainability convergence. Ladies and gentlemen, this session will be conducted by Vivek Rathore, Design Principal, Salient Design Studio. Vivek, an IIT Roorkee graduate, found his firm Salient Design Studio for architectural landscape interiors and enterprise in the year 2005. A rich, research-based approach is the key to his design philosophy. Please welcome on stage Vivek Rathore. Vivek seems to me like one of those moderators not wearing a blazer, and he's absolutely, the time is up, you are done. He looks like the strict kind of a moderator, is he? Are you, Vivek? Very strict. Now it's time that we introduce our speakers in an alphabetical order. Please welcome Anjan Mitra, Principal Architect and Urban Designer, the appropriate alternative. Mr. Mitra, in the last 3 decades, has explored various fields of design and planning. His research for responsible architecture and urban design in the Indian context began through the appropriate alternative in 1992 in Kolkata. In his projects, he strives to establish connections to its larger context and to bring out a positive change through innovation, be it ecological, environmental, or socio-cultural. Once again, put your hands together for Anjan Mitra. My next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, would be Ayan Singh, founder, Ayan Singh Architects, Urban Planners, and Designer. Ayan is a graduate of CEPT, India, with Masters in Urban Design from MIT, USA. He provides specialized expertise in the areas of master planning for waterfronts and campuses, including residential and mixed-use projects. He has been part of several architectural projects in India that includes resorts, institutions, commercial and healthcare, and residential projects, and is involved in various academics and studies in KRVIA Mumbai, IIT Kharagpur, CEPT Ahmedabad, and MIT USA. Put your hands together for Ayan Singh. My next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, is Bipratip, founder and principal architect, Epsilon. Bipratip graduated from Sir J.J. College of Architecture, Mumbai in 1996. With over 25 years of architectural and interior designing experience, he has worked on a range of different building types, including residential, commercial, retail, corporate, and hospitality projects. He founded Epsilon in 2002, and in the last 19 years has designed several projects across types and places. Put your hands together once again for Bipratip. My next speaker is Manash Sinha Roy. Manash Sinha Roy, Director Practice Design Private Limited. He has led the design of his high-profile projects around India, including institutional campus, premium residential, and mixed-use developments. Through his design practice, Manash focuses on strategic thinking and creating value for clients. He approaches his design work collaboratively, integrating planning, architecture, and services with a critical understanding of the forces that shape contemporary design solutions. Put your hands together once again for Manash Sinha Roy. My next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, is Shakuntala Ghosh, Principal Architect and Partner, Ghosh, Bose and Associates, and immediate past Chairperson of IGBC Kolkata Chapter. Ms. Ghosh has been actively involved with the green building movement since its inception. She is on the Technical Advisory Committee on the National Rating System for Green Building by MNRE. She is a qualified trainer and evaluator for Griha and IGBC accredited professional. She is an empaneled architect with the Bureau of Energy Efficiency, which has initiated the energy conservation in building code and has been designated as master trainer for improving understanding and promotion of ECBC. She is an accredited EIA coordinator for townships under QCI NABET accreditation scheme. Put your hands together for Shakuntala Ghosh. So as we all know, ladies and gentlemen, this is a very interesting session. Design disruption, technology and sustainability convergence. And now I would request our very strict moderator to kindly take over the session.
Namaskaram. See, I am very happy to see very few people here because the very serious things are handled by very few people. so let's clap for ourselves. So I think, देखिए, it is a topic which is very often talked, sustainability. ये तो last 5, 6, 7, 10 साल से बात कर रहे हैं लोग. And we often bypass this thinking that कोई ना कोई कर रहा होगा, कुछ ना कुछ हो रहा होगा. Now my point to you is here, we really want to use this forum to come to some kind of a common agenda of understanding. And I would request even 5% of the crowd can make a change for the remaining 95%. You agree? Yeah. Now, before I start, हर समय कोई serious चीज को बोलने के लिए पहले डराया जाता है. So let us understand, though the topic is design disruption, how would, simple baat hai, sustainability we all understand? Basically we all understand. Can I just have a hands up? Yeah, basically we all understand what is, क्योंकि इतना लोग real estate से है, realty industry. And to be very frank, internationally, we have failed. Let's be very factful. 2015 May, when UN put an agenda of 17 sustainable development goals, which you already know, the entire investment plan in the world changed. आज की डेट में रियलिटी बोलता है ग्रीन बिल्डिंग बनाओगे तो आपको एक्स्ट्रा एफआईआर मिलेगा, राइट? Why they're saying? Why does this came? How has this come all together? Because when the awareness towards the need of sustainability came, all these things were done. We forgot the sustainability, we took the FAR. Now look at the actual part. By 2030, UN ने बोला कि we should be able to all achieve this 17 sustainable development goal. And by 2030, we will fail 80% of the goal as per the present assessment. And you know how sad it would be? It would mean the climatic disruptions or the changes that is happening that would make a country like Japan below the poverty line. I'm repeating it again. कितना serious है आप समझिए, कोशिश कीजिए. दो Germany के scale की दो country, because of our not getting serious now, by 2030 we will pull them down below the poverty line. It is that serious. We are sitting in a city. We know that 70% of our people live in the villages. Globally, 70%, उसमें से शायद 100%, नहीं तो global average अगर बात करते हैं, तो 40% of the people globally don't even have sanitation. 30% no resource to safe drinking water. आज के date maybe when we are taking this water bottle, all this stuff here, आप सोचिए, people don't have safe drinking water. And we think we are safe, we are in reality, fantastic. Because it's reality, it's an industry, सिर्फ 3 लोग change कर सकते हैं. Academia, industry, or individual. And because we are industry, that's the reason we are talking straight. And I want this session to actually pop up with questions and suggestions. Because from here, we will take this up into a lot more suggestive and participatory mode with the government. And that is the purpose of putting down here as a panel. Everybody has rubbed their best of the time with one of the builders on some agenda with the green, partially successful and partially mulling down. Chalo, theek hai. Fees to mil ja rahi hai. And let's be factual and interesting that why are we talking after research was done कि भाई sustainability की इतनी ज़रूरत है, or why are you talking of technology? The fastest and the best means is only biotechnology to make our life better. And I'm not talking subjective, let's talk quantitative. Let's first understand that we in reality, we consume 40% of our resource. When I say resource, I mean energy and physical resources as well. 40% अगर जिम्मेदार नहीं ठहराया, तो कौन ठहराएगा? Are you all understanding what I'm saying, please? We are all in there. 40% हम लोग consume करते हैं, and then we only are trying to make a green agenda to get an FAR. I'm saying I'm also responsible. And आज जो हम लोग bylaws बनाते हैं, cities in the world have made sustainable bylaws. Pollution control का bylaws जानते हैं हम लोग? Bylaws है. अगर आप उसको नहीं follow करेंगे, तो बाकी कुछ नहीं करेंगे. ऐसा कुछ करना चाहिए ना? I can give you another figure. 88% of the fresh air that you are breathing in the atmosphere, Kolkata में या कोई भी city में, average, वो आज से 40 साल पहले plant किए हुए पेड़ हैं. अब imagine कीजिए, in the last 20 years, how many trees have we actually planted in our projects? Are we really leaving fresh air in the future? Or we are also no? हम लोग 20% को negotiate करते हैं, 10% को negotiate करते हैं. Yes or no? Let's be factful. And then we are talking about sitting here and let's be understanding that this is so serious. Now, to get the thing kicking off, I would really want the speakers and the panelists to speak casually, heart outside. You know, you can also participate. We want you guys to also participate. And actually, let's be fair in talking it out. I want to first assess, and this is where I just want to ask senior people of this panel, कि जब भी हम लोगों ने sustainability बात की है, पहले assess कर लेते हैं, हमारा first reaction क्या होता है realty sector में? Whenever as a consultants, they are, अभी just पहले some meeting was happening and somebody said, consultants, please consult the consultants. So whenever the consultants want to advise, what was the general reaction? If somebody said कि genuinely कुछ करना है sustainability के चक्कर में, what is general reaction? And we want to be very fair. So I just want to ask Anjan, what was his take on it whenever people approach it? Let's be very factual. Let's not give names, but let's understand what was the factual. Are we satisfied? Are we okay or not?
Actually, Vivek, I am the really wrong person to say that. Basically, I don't work for the realty sector to start.
Wonderful.
And the reason being exactly the things that he is talking about, most of the time, I don't actually respond to that kind of a need. Because to me, even for that matter, I have a more kind of old lineage. So to me, there are a lot of things that we actually could do sensibly. So I stress more on the design part rather than only thinking about the architecture part. So if a project comes, I first try to look as what can I do with it rather than projecting something on. So to me, restoring, conserving the already existing has a much more importance, because the moment we try to displace any development for that matter is a displacement of any kind. And all displacement is the result for so many other chaoses, the kind of failures what he is saying. Even the sustainability, the agenda itself is, I think, is a kind of a biased statement, because sustainability is the most abused term. Because depending from person to person or the individual, sustainability goal actually changes. For a builder, the sustainability is primarily the economic sustainability. For a user, it is their social and cultural context. For an administrator, is having the environment comparatively conducive. So everybody has a different kind of agenda. But as a designer who is responsible, because we are ultimately responsible for what is happening, because it is through us things are getting manifested. So we think we have to think responsibly to take any kind of decisions that we take. And that is where our agenda is. We take sustainability as an order, which creates a balance between the environment, between the nature, and between the user. All these things together makes an equation. And sustainability is an approach. You have to keep on working for it. It's not a one-time solution. So depending on that, that is why I didn't really have to face these questions, because we work with local communities, we work with major institutions, and other development plans, we try to work with the people and try to develop a kind of thing that works. And by that, so I am not the right kind of person.
So you know what he said, wonderful, and I think it deserves a note from all of us. What he said was fantastic, that displacement is a beginning of disturbing the balance. So we should actually do projects which have minimal displacement, and that's what fantastic as a conservation point of view. He said, I do a minimal displacement, I conserve. And the first thing that brings us is the new modern order is कितना हम जो exist करता है उसको बचा सकते हैं. ऐसा fabric, ऐसा point of view, ऐसा vision लेके चलेंगे ना, then it becomes fantastic. Now Shakuntala, you are one that actually can say that historically, how many?
Why are you putting me historically? I mean, what is the agenda?
No, let's put it like this. That,
you explain yourself. Why historically you have labeled me historic?
No, what I would say is many denials, many persuasions, and many agendas. You have been leading the IGBC vision for the last 2 years for this.
13 years.
13 years, wonderfully. And as chairman for the last 13 years, fantastic. Now, with all said done, I think she's the right person who says, look at how much she's able to converge together on this agenda with the clients.
Regarding clients, fortunately for me, it has been the other way around. It has been a mandate that you have to do it, because these clients have also been at the forefront of the movement, and many now have committed to go carbon neutral by 2030.
Beautiful.
So we have been at the forefront of that. I want to say a few words about this topic that we have today, and it is the convergence of sustainability and technology. So I'd like to ask my fellow panelists and even those in the audience, how many of you 1 year back, 1 year ago, or even 6 months ago, had heard of ChatGPT? Raise your hands if you had. Okay, so okay, so 2. So the thing is, for most of us, this kind of invaded our mind space maybe in November, December, where we heard that it was writing the medical exams and getting in and all of that. So AI, the artificial intelligence component, that is the new game changer which is going to come. So we have been doing green buildings, and that is green and all the things that come with it, the energy, the water, and materials, IAQ, all of that. Then we have been doing the BMS, which is managing and observing all your system, HVAC, lighting, access, and all of that. So if that is green and this is blue, what is happening now and going to happen very soon is the convergence of these two spheres, as you will. And that convergence is what we will call bright green buildings. wherein this sustainability components which we are building in, the BMS monitoring which we are building in, are going to talk to each other. They're going to talk to each other and automatically set the conditions for the building. Now, this is coming, and it is absolutely key to achieve our goals of net zero water, net zero energy, net zero waste, and finally, carbon neutrality. Having said all that, I agree 100% with Anjan that first, the design. So this is like the icing on the cake. So if the cake is beautiful, that icing makes it perfect. But if the cake is half-baked, no thought, that no amount of icing is going to make that cake perfect. It will stay half-baked with icing on top. It will be a useless cake, which is used for nobody. So the thing goes back way before that. You can have every sustainability feature built into a building. It can be green, platinum, super platinum, jo bhi ho. But if that building is built in a location where it should not be, then the whole thing falls apart. So we have to look, I think, and here it is beyond the realty sector, beyond individual consultants. It has to come from the planning department of the government, where proper land use planning is done, so that the carrying capacity of each location is properly mapped out. Once you have reached your max capacity by whatever parameters, then you don't build any more there. You cannot. It's a hard task because everyone benefits if people build. Everyone in this room benefits, we benefit. But somewhere there has to draw the line. Otherwise, we get the messes and the tragedies we are seeing in Uttarakhand, in Chennai, in Mumbai, in Kolkata, flooding. People are building where they are not supposed to. So only after the macro thing comes, can we come to a district level, then the building level. For example, say I am doing a commercial building, and I have a water-cooled big chiller, which requires lots of water, right? But it's a commercial building, so my STP does not generate as much recycled water that I need to feed that water-cooled chiller. Now, if this was integrated through technology, say with the huge apartment complex next door, where they are producing a lot of water which can be recycled, they can't use it so much. So this kind of network thing is going to happen, but it requires a vision. It requires people from the government, from the realty sector, from the consultant side to come together in a way which is just not happening. And unless that happens, it will never happen. It needs to happen.
Beautiful. I really appreciate the point that, you know, while she's saying that there should be a layering of individual units to become a kind of community level that is planning, from community to district level, from district level to, let's say, state, from state to nation. Now, this kind of a handshake, kaun karega? I can give an example. Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, for example, if you have been to a very new development, they have dissolved the line to say that the green agendas should not be restricted to building, but to a neighborhood. They are saying neighborhood, together as a neighborhood, you should be able to achieve. So maybe you're contributing to a larger volume of water, grey water generation, which you're not able to consume, you can share it where they need it for. So you can share resource on a larger platform than an individual platform. Now this is something so wonderful to understand. Aise bylaws planning mein dalne padenge, or this can be handled by institutional level and also at the industrial level. While CREDAI and industrial level is always fighting for the more benefits in terms of, we kind of find the loopholes of economic development, while that is needed, we need to understand the bigger impact of a neighborhood. Us level mein hum logon ko bylaws ko modify karna padega. While it's happening, I'm just giving a go. Ayan, you commissioned a building, this there in a new town, a community hall there, which breathes, and I could see that breathes from the lawn, and in the ground level, there's a large covered patio. And that reminds me of Jeffrey Bawa's hotel in Sri Lanka, where today people pay one of the most highest average room rent with only 38% average air-conditioned space. 38%, and they pay a very high, I'm talking about the better times of Sri Lanka. And that reminded me of that this kind of a design approach, sensitivity, which people are following, while you're doing it as a design sensitivity, how much do you agree that why don't we pen down such kind of impending bylaws which stratify the need of a sustainable document? Ki sustainability ka chapter pehle cross karoge, tab ja karke aapko bylaws milega. Why don't you draft? Many cities in the world are having, I'm just naming you, Copenhagen has it full, and that's the reason they've been able to achieve those things. Now, because you're sensitive, what is your take on that?
I think sort of crossbreed two things that Anjan and Shakuntala suggested. One thing is when you're looking at a neighborhood or when you're looking at a design as a basic strategy, I think at a very basic strategic level, there can be do's and don'ts, which you tend to omit when you are doing even micro design. I always felt that few green buildings or sensitive projects of a dozen individuals will not change our city. You have, at the same time, a large bulk of semi-design, poly-design projects which are really adding up to the noise. So I feel that a very basic, rudimentary do's, don'ts way can strategize the design process. I'll also, on that point, look into, I'm concerned about water, and I think particularly the city of Calcutta, because I believe that projects need to be very, very strongly contextual. And I think my practice at least is tending to take all the inspiration from landscape. And landscape, I don't mean plants, but I think the whole idea of water movement, because I don't know about the rest of the world, but at least the city that I've headquartered my practice out of is not too high from the sea level. So I think it's about 6 meters or something, if I'm not mistaken. I think the entire water movement predates the historic core of the city, which means I'm talking about the canals and the wetlands, which are all clogged. And I don't have, maybe a couple of monsoons will be like Bangalore and Bombay completely getting flooded, because there is no serious impact on dredging our canal systems. We have a Ramsar site, we have a no-build zone, which we tend to be scared of. But wherever there is a way in which we can throw rubbish and solid waste, it's sort of at a macro level, the inherent blue system of the city needs to be respected. So that may be a starting point, and stitched together with that, there is a neighborhood level planning. So there are at a city level, neighborhood level combination happening, and at a building level, at a very rudimentary level, there are do's and don'ts. Because honestly speaking, apart from institutional clients or a very keen private individual who can be somehow influenced by by painless debates or tears that, okay, please follow this somehow, otherwise everything will go kaput, is probably the only sector. And I feel that the real estate sector finally needs to sort of address that at micro and macro level, at both levels. And again, it doesn't hold good for every real estate sector, because my proportion of involvement is slightly less there these days. But wherever I would like to influence, at least managing the low brownie points should be mandatory and not optional. That might have a larger cumulative effect, Vivek.
Right. So what we gather is saying that, let's think of something which is made mandatory, which need to be layered as a compulsive stuff. For example, when a rule was recently put down in Newtown that, your terraces would be green, and people did start there. That did have an impact. I think a couple of people did mention that, we started having it green. Some people saying that my roof does not support the load. How do I make it green? When things come. So possibly an introduction or a handholding is needed by institutions.
And things like water management system is one of the lower, easier points at all scales. I mean, it's not, you don't only target these high-end projects and treat that as they should set benchmarks. The average mediocrity of the average projects really bring the average down very badly. So it doesn't matter if you do 5 great buildings, because there are 500 ugly pieces of failures really bulking up our average.
So I was thinking, why don't we kind of, what comes immediately as an impromptu, let's try to draw up some immediate points that we it all have to work as a mandatory, for example. If there is a mandate of getting this new agenda of our bylaws, let's say sustainable bylaws down the line in the realty sector, what would that be? Manas, what comes to you immediately? And if we even get one of the things from our thought process, what could that be which you think the sustainable goals can be adhered to? And it's an open thing. It can be Manas. Anyone can just, what comes to your mind?
So immediately what I think is on the building front, there is a lot of things which has been already worked upon, and I think we are at a stage where slowly that thing is creeping in. Slowly the thing is creeping in within the within the architects or the builders, or the way we are working towards it is that those ratings, those pointers have not now slowly going away, and people are all looking towards a sustainable building because the cost versus things are coming to an equilibrium. So if you ask me, now the focus should be, and probably all the entire panel is also vouching for that it has to be on a community level. So what has happened with Rajarhat should also happen with all other places where the infrastructure should be planned first, so that it is able to sustain the kind of development that there is a projection for that. And sustainability should also percolate down to that level where it goes into the, there should be bylaws in terms of infrastructure planning. We should not be seeing another Sector 5 in future. So.
Okay. Okay.
I'll just add on to that.
Yeah.
I think, when we are talking about, actually green, or when we are talking about sustainability,
yes.
I'm seeing a kind of a different, actually, kind of a different scene altogether, because I don't actually work for the, I'm sorry. Yeah, actually, I don't really have any of these clients who are into the construction, so I basically, I'm actually working for individuals. I think 80% of the people have got no idea of कि क्या हम लोग का ये अपना sustainability है या फिर क्या what is a green building. We have to camouflage it in various ways. ये आपके लिए वास्तु के लिए ठीक है. It'll save you money. It'll save you money in future. So we've got to actually camouflage it in various ways. Let us put in this. तो आपके लिए it'll save you on electricity. It'll save you on this. But I think this is where academics has to play a very important role. I think. Let us not just talk about only the construction world, or let us not just talk about only the builders. There is a huge mass. There is a huge mass of construction which is actually happening all across the country, and which is actually not really through the organized the organized construction this thing as such. So I think academics has to play a very important role, how to actually make people understand that all these things which you actually correctly said, that probably in another 10 years time we people will be actually out of this thing. So I think it's very important for us to spread the word. Now how to spread the word is, I think, where this
fantastic.
I'll also add on. Two words are coming in my mind suddenly while Bipratip was talking about. So one is when you asked what are the things which you foresee putting into the bylaws, one is phytoremediation and the other one is BIPV. So if there is any way where building integrated photovoltaic cells can be integrated within the facade, though today it is a very difficult proposition because the people who are doing photovoltaic cells, it's an expensive solution. Putting it on the facade is almost, we tried out with one of our clients, Vikram Solar, we were about to do it, but it did not happen. But something like that, if it comes at a cheaper cost, or some kind of bylaws percolates into it, and phytoremediation, of course, because if you can do a lot of, if it is compulsory that in any indoor environment, you have to have that kind of a percentage of xeroscopic plants which emits oxygen to increase the oxygen level within the surrounding or within the interior spaces. So these two words comes to my mind in terms of putting it into the bylaws, so that it kind of, makes it mandatory that every building can slowly creep into this sect.
Right. Yes, please.
I think because the way the sustainable development goals and other thing, we are actually depending extremely heavily, as Shakuntala was saying, this artificial intelligence, other thing, instead of basic common sense and basic common understanding of the environment, we have actually gone part in that. We first create a problem and then try to create a solution. And that is why when we say is that design is an essence, it's basically that. Photovoltaic cell, everything is fine. In an office building, if you have such a large bay, and which doesn't, actually, if you can compensate daylight into the building, half your energy consumption goes down. You don't have to do that. You have a much kind of, this is a kind of an approach that how I am going to address to the environment in a most proactive way, in a most responsible way. That is one. In fact, the small things like green, we know our microclimate depends on these hard covers. Everywhere, every site, we always say that, okay, you have only 8% green. But it is not necessarily that I have to cover every part of the green. We can retain that. I recently have an NKDA where I wanted to restrict the driveway so that I can have more green, but the plan didn't get sanctioned because simply the people who are sitting at that desk trying to approach these bylaws in a very kind of straight, siloed way. So they don't understand the perspective on which that the sustainable goal is trying to be achieved. So first and foremost, the institutional mechanism of the bylaws understanding, they have to be first taught. As instead of that straightforward, this is the mandatory, when we talk about mandatory setback, there is a reason for which that mandatory setback comes up. So if we understand that with a different context, we should be able to incentivize, then the whole development model will actually try to be followed, so they don't see sustainable goals as a constraint. Rather, even the realtors who are actually trying to make profit. So basically, if the sustainable goal actually helps to profit more and more practical solution, more sustainable in the long run, it is automatically a take. So you don't have to argue for it. So that is a kind of a positive note we have to build into the thinking process, that the way we will be building, which will have a lesser impact, which will actually adhere to the threshold, and somebody has to think in both the terms so that it is also viable, it's a wealth. Then that mind thinking process will percolate into the whole user, because they are the person who will be dictating in these terms.
I think I understand your pain and the vision that you want to give. The entire effort has to be not one. We have to collectively keep on hammering the point without, there will be complaints, but with the persistence has to be there. Because if we stand there, for example, we were just trying to lay down a path which will be there in about a month's time, which will be there with all the consultants. How systematically we will take up this agenda through IGBC, and I don't know how in sharing it together, that there will be an agenda. How we can take it up in terms of modifying the bylaws and bringing those layers, taking out the layers which are archaic, and inserting a separate chapters as compulsive. Because till we mandate sustainability, we'll always complain about this is the old laws, that's not allowing. We'll have to layer a compulsive stuff, automatically the archaics will be removed.
And I think in that setup, you also need to sort of build in a sort of a preamble.
Yes.
So there is a law and there's a preamble. Preambles are not necessarily legally binding. But I think when you're talking about these sort of 5 or 6 agencies really sanction our plans in this sort of region by and large. I'm not looking at the micro level panchayats necessarily, but at the bigger level, or at least in the peri-urban area. So I think that spirit of engaging with them is also important. I mean, one aspect of the realty sector is the developer. The other sort of component is the officials and the agencies who are responsible for the statutory clearance, who are looking at silos. But it was 3 mm come hai, to like, my God, everything has gone wrong. But not looking at the philosophy of taking inspiration of typologies. So like a Rajasthani courtyard or a building in Ahmedabad or a old courtyard house in Calcutta is probably the most sustainable example of water storage and of climate collection. None of them needed AC, and even if you have that, it sort of works. So I think Obviously, with building typology changing and density, you need to adapt. But how do you kind of look into your own roots? And I think that's a general direction we've been able to do a course correction of looking back towards our roots, even at this level. I think that might add to our structured goals.
True. There's one interesting chapter also. You see, जब आपने बोला ना, awareness. Your thing was that how do we make people aware? You have to say Vastu and then explain technology and then explain because sustainability. One conclusion everybody draws. If the design is made simple and core to fundamental, it is always green. I am sure that we all are sitting here, हम लोग के पुश्तैनी मकान अगर आप देखें, जो हवेलियाँ थीं, they were all green. They are green and they're still working green. Why? And how do we continue that simple fundamental still now? But that does not mean I will be completely beyond the technology. We should, that's what again coming to, we should have, there's an individual level awareness that soon you will see apps coming there wherein you're supposed to feed how much, what is the kind of stuff that you are using, how much by foot you're traveling, and in the end of the day, you will come to know how much of contribution you have done to the future. Or how much जितना contribution आप एक साल में कर पाएंगे, उसके हिसाब से आपको citizenship gold का एक points मिलता है कि आप उस level के citizen हैं. और अगर उस level के citizen आप बने, तो आपको tax का benefit मिलता है, government बोलती conscious है. और अगर आप ज़्यादा consume करते हैं, तो आपका नेगेटिव इम्पैक्ट शुरू हो जाता है. ऐसे लेवल पे जब हम लोगों के एप्स बन जाएंगे तो आप देखिएगा वी विल ऑल गेट वेरी कॉन्शियस ऑफ कि हम दुनिया को बना रहे हैं कि बिगाड़ रहे हैं. आई एम श्योर दैट ऐप इज देयर एंड दिस इज व्हाट एंड दिस एंड यू नो आई विल टेल यू अ सिटी, आई एम नॉट नेमिंग द सिटी, इट्स बीइंग प्लान्ड, दे मेड अ सिस्टम कि भाई अगर 12 किलोमीटर के रेडियस में मटेरियल जो है लोकल अवेलेबल है, इफ यू कैन यूज 50% ऑफ दैट मटेरियल, सिंपल, आपका इतना प्रॉपर्टी टैक्स होगा. उसको मॉनिटर करने के लिए उन्होंने हिसाब किताब बनाया, ये मॉनिटर होगा, फलान, एवरीथिंग इज विदिन 12 किलोमीटर्स यू हैव टू प्रोक्योर द बिल्डिंग मटेरियल. आपका प्रॉपर्टी टैक्स इतना. फैंटास्टिक इनिशिएटिव. आई एम श्योर दैट हमारे सेलिब्रिटी बढ़ जाती है रियल एस्टेट में, ऑब्वियसली. नाउ दिस काइंड ऑफ क्रिएटिव थिंकिंग ओनली टू, बिकॉज इफ द अवेयरनेस हैज टू कम विद इंसेंटिव, इट बिकम्स इजी. But just telling, we have been telling it for last so many years. and it's समझ में नहीं. तो जब एक layer of लगाना पड़ेगा cream, तो खाने में मजा आएगा, तब जाके काम होगा. So I'm sure that this kind of stuff will soon happen. Soon means it is going to happen in next 3-4 months. You will all those of people from Calcutta, you will be able to see it. The apps, I'm sure that will be there in the next couple of years, no, a couple of months. The app is already there on the way. These things are there. But who is taking in caution? Industry ले रहा है. ये कोई गवर्नमेंट नहीं ले रहा है, इंडस्ट्री ले रहा है. वो इंडस्ट्री में एक समझदार इंसान जाता है, वो एक आईएएस ऑफिसर समझाता है, उसको समझ में आता है, करता है. हम लोगों को इनिशिएटिव लेना पड़ेगा. This is what a very big crux. I'm sure that people who are sitting here, who have almost 30-40 years of experience in the industry or related industries, they are the people who can drive such a thing. And this will bring a change. Now, since the time is less, I just want to take a quick point. You know, there's only about 3-4 minutes left. If you're okay, can we open the house to any discussion, any pointers? You can contribute to your suggestions, which you think that can happen in the bylaws, or you think that this can be a way to get awareness, whatever you think, that can be a point. And I'm telling you, we're going to put it down as a white paper submission to the authorities. Yes, please. Questions. Can we have a mic there given to the gentleman? Just call out your name, please. Can we have a mic given, or shall I just? एक mic उनको दीजिए.
Thanks. My name is Arnab, and just wanted to make a point.
जी.
Sustainability globally is a good thing, right? And the reason for that is not the businesses want to do it, but they get more money when they do sustainability. The investors invest in companies which are more sustainable. employees like to work in companies which promote sustainability. Customers want to work with companies which are more sustainable, or rather practice sustainable stuff. Until and unless this same thing happens here, this will not change. Means even if you bring an app and all that, वो सर के ऊपर ठीक है, government बोल रहा है अब करना ही पड़ेगा. And then you game the system, and you will figure out a way to game the system. That's going to happen. But until and unless it becomes viable for the enterprise to do this, and it is viable means it is financially viable, right? I don't think these things work out finally.
Actually, it is already financially viable. Those who have constructed green buildings, they find that their operational costs are far reduced. The offices, the productivity is much more, because green building also enhances the wellness of the people working in it. So that is already there, and the examples are already there. People, it is our failure that we haven't spread the word.
Do the people
enough.
working there understand that fact?
Yeah.
Rarely they do.
They have to understand that.
Exactly.
And actually those realty majors who are doing it and have experienced it, they can spread among their... In fact, there was a very interesting session which I chaired at the last Green Building Congress, and it was the case, the transition to net zero futures. And the topic was dealt with by construction majors. One was Mahindra Lifestyles, who had achieved net zero for one of their projects, how they did it, and it's not difficult. So this is a success story. Another was Shobha Developers, who had achieved net zero water. And the other one, I forget which developer it was, but showed the way that they had achieved net zero waste, and in a very easy way. So there's all technologies are there, and it works out very economic, absolutely. And even for green homes now, those homes which are certified, those receive benefits in loans for the customers who are buying it. So these incentives are coming, they're already there. So there's a huge ecosystem happening. I think what we are talking now, it will be totally irrelevant even 1 year down the line, because it is now mainstream. Now it is going to net zero. That is where we are going. Green buildings is finished. Purana baat hai. So good point. We obviously have not been successful in spreading the word wide enough, fast enough, and that haste is really there. Sapna, maybe you can help. You have a big voice. You have a wide readership. So we need people like you to really, spread it to every corner.
Very true. Just to give you the figure, green aware building, if I can put the word wellness aware building, let's take another word, biophilic design, is 27 to 30% much more selling and expensive than the usual office. If you give a terrace, green and daylight, it is far-fetched. And our last experience of about 4 corporate parks, the first properties that gets sold in Calcutta or got sold off were the places with terraces. Yesterday only somebody approached us. We wanted to refer him to a terrace property. He said, nahi milta hai, big gaya, upar wala hai. So that means we are getting aware of. And as far as absenteeism is concerned, productivity is concerned, yes, there is enough fact we have to be aware as the magazine or the digital media, more awareness needs to be. And that is a fact in terms of reality. 27% global average, ज़्यादा पैसा में बिकता है, you can do that thing, and say people are preferring that thing. So while that is fantastic, any other question? Anyone in prompts or something? Yes, can we have a mic there, please?
Hello. Hi, I'm Neha Soni. So I'm an interior designer. So you've spoken all about, like the exterior, the architecture and everything. My question is the buildings that are already constructed, the complexes, a lot of big complexes where people invest money, they move in. How can we use sustainability, like in terms of designing their interiors to, ensure that, like they're in tandem with, the future prospects of sustainability and stuff.
Your name,
Neha.
Neha.
Yeah.
So Neha, I would advise you to look at the green interiors rating system. So there, how you can make an interior green, it's all laid out in a very, what can I say, systematic manner. So there are different aspects. One, of course, is daylight. Then materials, like Vivek was saying, the source, the local materials, those materials which have more recycled content. And you will need to produce the papers which are showing how much recycled content. Then, like again Vivek said, that access to greenery, these affect wellness. Also, the acoustics of the place. So if you're in a very noisy environment, that affects wellness. So you have to take care of those things. And all this is all laid out very nicely. So I would urge you to take a look at the green interiors rating system, where it shows that even in an existing building, how you can make the interior green, because that's a huge part of it also. Even the carpets you choose, how much recycled content does it have? There's just so much to get into it.
So usually all these recycled contents are usually so expensive. The clients are like,
No, I don't think so.
Exactly, I was coming to that point.
That's actually
Yes,
happened
there is, but then interiors being interiors, we perceive it as a temporary solution.
Correct.
So I have a little different take on this. I will say that while we do interiors, can we be very, very minimalistic in our approach, where we can, because overall when we see interiors, we try to load it up with a lot of, layering of stuff, And contemporary interiors, if you see, the whole world is moving towards the contemporary modernist approach, where there is minimal things. So that is also a way of going towards sustainability, where you do very, very minimal stuff, do the basics, keep it to the basics. So beyond that, of course.
Fantastic. What to sum it up is, if you can consume less,
You're saving.
you have won the first best point. Second, if you have consumed what is consumed, you have consumed the second best point. And if you consume in operations less, that means you can use daylight factor, windows, ventilation, you have done the rest. So that's what it brings home to the timeline. I can see we have run 6 minutes over time. I'm sure that if we have further questions, we can take it off stage and have a nice discussion. It's a limited stuff to happen. Thank you. Thank you very much for your patience. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you so much. What wonderful speakers we have had. And ladies and gentlemen, on this note, I'd like to welcome on stage Mr. Ajay Raj Baid from Tile Square to present a token of appreciation to all our panelists. Let's give them all a bigger round of applause, everybody.